Hey docs, Dr. Tony here, and we've officially entered the neuro age, and that changes everything. Today's parents are more educated, more tech savvy, and they're not buying guesswork anymore. They want certainty, they want clarity, they want data. That's why Dr. David Fletcher and I are hosting a free training called The Neuro Age Has Arrived. And we're going to show you exactly how to lead with the insight scans, build data-driven care plans, and become the go-to doctor for full families in your community. You'll walk away knowing how to use the insight scans and that incredible technology like HRV, thermal, and EMG to deliver world-class results and build massive trust with moms and dads in your community. Register now through the link in today's show notes. Honestly, this is the new standard for family practice. Let's meet it. Let's rise to it.
Branding is always happening. So it's either moving people towards your mission or away from it. And so the cost of unclear branding isn't just slower growth, right? And that is one of the effects for sure, but it's confusion, and confusion creates hesitation.
All right, chiropractors and chiropractic students, welcome to the Family Practice Podcast. You know, the one you've been waiting way too long for, because this podcast will actually stay focused on chiropractic, not only what it takes to get world-class clinical results for kids and families in your community, but also what it takes to build a legendary, incredible family practice that takes care of your family way beyond your dreams. I'm Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be joined by Dr. Matt Hill, Dr. Allie Wright, and incredible guests, chiros, associates, CAs, all these folks making massive impact around the world. We're going to cover everything: pediatric, perinatal, family practice. This is the podcast you've been waiting for, because moms and dads and families have always needed us. Now they're finally ready for us. I hope you're ready for the Family Practice Podcast. Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Family Practice Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Allie Wright, and I am super excited today because I want to welcome Jalisa, who is one of our team members, powerhouse. She is head of brand and content marketing at the Pediatric Experience and PX Doc. So welcome, Jalisa. We are so excited to have you. She brings experience and years of experience of brand strategy, marketing, storytelling in the healthcare and natural health space. She's worked with brands like Dr. Axe's Health Institute, Ancient Health Podcast, all those big things. And she helps them communicate with clarity, consistency, and heart. She's done all the things. We love her. Most importantly, she's a wife. She is a mom. She loves chiropractic. She gets adjusted. So she really is living this lifestyle. And I'm excited to have her on today because we're talking all things brand. And she's just really going to help us level up our offices and our brand. So, hey, Jalisa, welcome today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm pumped for this one because I think that brand is a lot of the times overlooked, right? Like it's like, oh, it's just a brand, or they just think of it as like a logo or something. And so I'm super excited to jump into here. Let's just dive in. I'm going to rapid fire kind of Alex Clark this thing and just give you some questions, and then you tell me the answer, what you're thinking, and then we'll go from there with some conversation. So The first question that I have from you is, how do you define a brand in a way that feels authentic and sustainable?
Yeah. You know, when I was developing in my career, Marty Neumeier was like, I read all of his books. He's like the OG of brand. And he always said a brand is not your logo, right? And I mean, taking this even further, it's not your Instagram aesthetic. It's not whatever the marketing trend is that, right now. It's a gut feeling, he says, that people have about you before they ever even meet you. So it's a gut feeling when it comes to chiropractors, about you as a chiropractor, about your practice, and about the industry itself. It's that gut feeling. It's not the logo. Now, these things influence someone's gut feeling, right? But a brand is that gut feeling. Rory Vaden is another great person that I've looked to over the years, and he talks about branding being especially nowadays, the digitization of reputation. And reputation can be basically boiled down into one word: trust. And that, again, goes back to what Marty was talking about, Marty Neumeier, that gut feeling. Does someone have trust in you, in your practice, in chiropractic? to solve the things that they are looking to solve, to achieve the goals they're looking to achieve. And so it's whether or not when they encounter you, your practice, your name, and come under your care, whether or not that feeling of trust is there. And, it's not just even that one person, right? So you think about these like mega brands, and you've got, Nike and all of this stuff, massive brands, all have this same feeling towards them, and trust built around them because now enough people have arrived to that same feeling, have arrived to that same conclusion. And so that's why, branding doesn't necessarily start with just putting out graphics, right? It starts with really defining what the why is behind your practice, behind what you do, and infusing that into every corner of your business, from the strategy to communication to your advertising to your marketing, and all the way down into the actual patient experience when they're walking through your doors. And I think, again, it's so easy for us to think about branding as being something that's only an outward portrayal, a visual portrayal of something, but really it's so much more about and it stems from what's rooted in your mission. And it kind of it reminds me of that Bible verse. It's from the heart, the mouth speaks, and Tony talks about this all the time, but he's talking about the power of obsession, right? That clearly defined why within you that drives every decision that you make, every piece of content you put out. That is how a brand is built. So it's not built off of trends, where it's going to constantly require a reinvention of yourself. It's built off of purpose and something that you can be anchored in for decades, right? The authenticity that you bring, the why behind why you bring it, is really what truly establishes that brand. And I'll take this moment too. I know we're just literally getting started, but from the get-go, I want everyone to take a really big sigh of relief. This is not about becoming an influencer, It's not your logo. It's not your color scheme. And again, I have a long background in graphic design and all of that. These things influence trust for sure. Consistency in these areas influence trust. But, going even beyond aesthetics, going into your content, branding isn't about being an influencer. I'm not asking you to be an influencer. It's not about virality. And it's not about me. It's about building trust at scale, helping families recognize you, feel safe about your practice, believe in what you stand for. And so ultimately, it's not that I'm asking people, and branding's not about people becoming influencers. It's about becoming a thought leader. And someone who's a thought leader can influence and lead the thoughts of their community. And so when you think about, do I have a well-established brand? Ask yourself, what does my community think about chiropractic? What does my community think about pediatric chiropractic? What does my community think about neurologically focused chiropractic? And if you're not leading that discussion, then you don't have a strong brand. If they don't even know that exists for them as an option, then you don't have a strong brand. And so we develop brands in order to create that trust, create that gut feeling, create that, tribe around the mission that we're on. And whether you like it or not, it's always happening. I think Hormozy talks about this, and obviously I've heard a lot of other people talk about this, but branding's happening whether you like it or not. So it's either moving towards a good gut feeling or a bad gut feeling. So And that good gut feeling and that bad gut feeling, it's either happening by accident or happening by design. And obviously we want the good gut feeling. We want to create and design, a brand that influences a good gut feeling, that draws people towards trust, towards your practice, towards chiropractic. So anyways, super long-winded answer, but like, I feel like that is hopefully a good understanding of what a brand truly is, and is not. And again, all of these things, the logo, the aesthetics, the content, all of that influences your brand and it builds your brand up. But the brand itself, whether you have a brand or not, is really whether or not you have that trust built in your community, in the world, and so, yeah.
I love that. I love that answer. I love that it was long-winded because it was perfect and that it did go beyond your graphics and your logos and all those things and how, yes, those will influence it. But when you gain that trust in things, it changes everything. And so that's where I kind of want to segue into is, what is the cost of not having a clear brand, of not gaining trust, both for the doctor and for the community that we serve?
Yeah. Man, like I said, just before the question and stuff, like branding is always happening. So it's either moving people towards your mission or away from it. And so the cost of unclear branding isn't just slower growth, right? And that is one of the effects for sure, but it's confusion, and confusion creates hesitation. And if your message is mixed, if families don't know what you stand for, what you specialize in, or why they should trust you, then they're not going to walk through your doors. And so I think, think of branding as, it exists to shorten that belief gap, right? The time it takes to trust you. Branding is influencing that time. But the longer it takes someone to trust you or understand you, the longer it takes them to commit, if they ever do at all. And so that's where a lot of, practices stall these days, is they just haven't built enough trust. And, even the ones who have like big outputs, let's say from a content standpoint, if there's confusion in the outputs, then there's going to be a delay in trust, a hesitation. And so for the doctor, this creates exhaustion because if you're, again, when I go back to like the output side of things, some people really are, they're posting like crazy, they're chasing, a bunch of different patient types. They're second guessing everything, compared to others. They're saying this, should I be saying that? And so they're just trying to on this like hamster wheel of trying to be everything for everybody. And it's actually ultimately hurting them. And without that clear brand, that starts to feel like a hustle instead of momentum behind them, right? Like the air under the wings that should just be so much easier, to fly and stuff. It becomes reactive instead of rooted. Eventually it just feels like a job instead of your mission. And so I think you can see where this creates, so much exhaustion for the doctor. And then eventually they just, give up because they're like, well, my marketing's not working for me, or, social media isn't getting me any new patients, or, all of these different things. And it's like, well, actually, it might not be working for you and your social might not be getting you patients because, again, there's a lack of clarity here. There's people looking at your brand and at your practice and saying, who do they serve? Can they help me? What is this neurologically focused chiropractic all about? If even that, that's something that you've chosen to, promote and stuff, or maybe there's that confusion, like, wait, they say neurologically focused, but, they're talking about car accidents and spines. Like, where's the disconnect here? That kind of stuff. And then ultimately too, like, again, the confusion that then the chiropractor has now created for themselves bleeds into the community because now, again, moms are searching for answers. They're overwhelmed. They've got tons of options out there, so it seems, but none of them are really feeling like the right thing. If your brand isn't communicating that trust, that excellence, that clarity, that hope, they end up sticking with whatever kind of likely symptom-based cycle that they are already stuck in. And so all that to say, it's deeply rooted in my passion, obviously, because it's what I do, but marketing isn't fluff. It actually is a public service. And it is the opportunity to communicate to your community that you have something that, can heal, can transform their lives, and if they don't understand that and they don't understand the why and they, and you don't have the clarity behind that, then they're not going to be able to choose that transformation for themselves either. And so, I think taking an even layer deeper, let's say you are somebody who, you are able to get someone to walk through your doors via the efforts that you put out, right? But once they get through the doors, there's no education, no table talk, no continued support for them. I can guarantee you they're not sticking around, and especially not for lifelong care. And so really taking that even a level deeper, even if you get someone inside and you're still not clear, about what it is that you're doing and that they're even there for, and if you're not consistently providing those high levels of empowering education and information via, social media content, the table talk, the workshops, condition-based email sequences, dripping articles and podcasts and resources every single week to them, then they are not going to become lifelong, patients. They need all of this stuff, and PwC does this so well, in order to achieve that deeper level of meaning and understanding about what's going on in themselves and in their family members. And as a result, they really truly start to feel like family and like they belong somewhere. And so, I think all of these different components, if you don't bring that and infuse that from the start, you're not going to get people in. And then even if you do get a few people in by the outputs that you're putting out, if that's not consistent throughout your practice, they're not becoming lifelong relationships. And AKA kind of the Nike example, you don't really have a brand at that point. You had a good, what we'd call in marketing, clickbait. You got people in, you hooked people for a second, but once they got in, it fell apart because that trust didn't deepen. You didn't tap into their deeper purpose, their goals, their principles and their dreams.
Yeah. Oh, I love this so much. Okay, I feel like every doctor that's listening to this is nodding their head so much in their understanding, but let's take it to where they have to now look inward and look at their practice. How do we help practices get clear on who they're actually for, who they want to serve, right? Because in chiropractic, you can go anyway, right? In the wellness industry, especially with a degree like chiropractic, you can go functional med, you can go car accidents, you can go kids, you can go, there's so many different things to do. So what are some questions, or how would you guide someone to really get clear on who they're for, who they want to serve, who they really want to tap into as their target market?
Yeah, for sure. I would say the biggest mistake is this first category of I'm everything for everybody, right? So I need to serve everybody with a spine for whatever it is that they need. And for PX, obviously we teach that a thriving family practice is built when you stop being general and start being intentional about who you serve. So the most powerful brands, when you think about it, are specific, because the specificity, creates the trust. And so when you try and speak to everyone, you resonate with no one. And so again, really dialing down those questions of, your brand's DNA. Who do I serve? What is the problem that I solve? And how do I uniquely solve that? And why does that matter for my community? And then again, taking that even deeper past just the who isn't just, demographics, it's the psychographics, it's the mindset. What do they value? What are their emotions and motivations? For us, we think of the exhausted mom, the perfect storm kiddo, the holistic family shifting away from medicine and, all of that. And so when we further define who that person is, our message and gear our message toward that, it becomes a magnetic pull. It goes into that tribe mentality of, oh, like, gosh, finally someone understands me, right? Like I'm pulled towards them. I want to also kind of give the another sigh of relief, I guess. One earlier, you don't have to be an influencer, you need to be a thought leader. But here's the second sigh of relief. Like, clarity gives you the permission to say no, and a niche isn't limitation, it's actually leadership, right? Again, like, does your community know and trust chiropractic? What about neurologically focused pediatric and family chiropractic? Do they even know that side of it? What about the perfect storm patients? The kiddos with autism and seizures and developmental delays and ADHD, do they know and do they trust that you are the only person in the healthcare industry that can really do a whole lot about that, And so, again, because we talk so much about the nervous system being the foundation, right? And I think niching allows you to become the authority in your community. It allows you to become the leader in your community. And so again, if you're that, I'm here to take in anybody for any reason. And so all of my content resembles that. I've got posts about car accidents, and I've got posts about migraines, and then I've got posts about, the nervous system and all of that. There's just so much confusing. Like, are you going to help me with my pain, or are you going to help me with my nervous system? Being able to be unmistakably different, immediately recognizable, and deeply aligned, is really the formula here for success, because you're not any longer blending in with every other chiropractor, down the street. You're not blending in with, the joint chiropractic and stuff like, this chain, and stuff like that. Like, you are the one that's brave, standing out and putting your, flagpole into the ground, to your stake in the ground, and saying, this is what chiropractic really, can do. And it's transformative. And so, again, like, it's been so cool to see as a part of being in Pediatric Experience and PWC and PX Docs, like, seeing how the last 15 years, Tony's been working through that message, to now be at a place where, a PX Doc is a world known, brand and model, is just so cool. And that just shows you the power of, we never deviate from that message of pediatric, neurologically focused, family and pediatric, neurologically focused chiropractic. And we've never deviated from that. And you can see now, again, the strength in numbers that we now have around this brand.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. Okay. And I love how you just said, like, that also gives you the authority, right? Because if you're talking about so many different other things, like, how can I trust you on all these things? You're not good at all the things, you're just average, but if you focus on one thing, you can be the best at it. And so I really love and appreciate that you said that. I want to flip the script almost, because we just talked about someone who is like trying to, establish their brand and things. What about the practices who have been established for a while and they now are being pressured, by the soft wave stuff and by just all the different things and comparison and growth and all the pressure that they're having to deal with? How would you encourage encourage them to really stick to their brand or, and to just stay in the lane that they love to do and trust it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of like hit it on the head right there. It's, sticking to your brand means consistency over novelty, right? Like, I think that growth has that pressure that often tempts us to see the shiny objects and want to chase them, right? The new tactics, the new audiences, especially, like you can start to think like, well, I've really dominated this audience. In order to get to that next level of my business, right? The next level of patients, coming through my doors, I need to add in another audience. I need to add in Shockwave or, this, added service, massage, and like all of this kind of stuff in order to expand my audience. But what's crazy about that is like everybody has a nervous system, right? And so like your audience is as big as it could possibly get. And ultimately, if you start to deviate from these, from your original mission and from your original purpose and from your original message, people will continue to get confused. And so we're even talking about like people who have been under your care are now starting to feel like they should look elsewhere. And you had them as lifelong patients because they believed in that, that message that you had, that mission. And now they're second guessing. Now they're looking at a different doctor, in your neighborhood who has a stronger, more aligned message. Like when you first started out, they're going to move over to them. And so you've lost your lifelong, retention there. Then anybody looking new into your office is going to have that original confusion that I talked about where they're like, wait, so like, how can they help me? And really, are they the authority in this? There's Roy Vaden, I mentioned him earlier on. He owns the Brand Builders Group, and they did this awesome study a couple of years ago across the country. And they collected research about the importance of, personal branding and stuff like that. And one of the things that they said is like rank from highest to lowest of all of these different professionals. The like most important person to have like a personal brand. And at the very top, we've got lawyers, we've got, all of these different people. At the very top was doctors. And it makes sense because these people, again, like trust you with their health, right? The good and the bad, and so they trust you with their beings themselves, and so the importance of your brand being established and being trustworthy is so important as a doctor. And the moment that you start to create confusion, it could be catastrophic, But yeah, I think, again, like thinking about even, Gary Vee, he says, never compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Like diluted focus will always produce diluted results. And so if you're looking around and you're comparing yourself to, and when Gary Vee said that, he's kind of talking about like, oh, well, this person, is on all of these different channels. They're on YouTube, they're on this, they're on that, but I'm only in Instagram right now. Like, that's okay. Like own Instagram and stuff. Like don't compare yourself to someone who's further along. So again, I think ultimately, like when we dilute our efforts, dilute our message, we're just continually going to get diluted results from that. And that's true both from the actual like practicing of, where we're putting our content, where our brand is showing up, and also our message, our audiences, who we're speaking to. If we dilute that, we will get diluted results. I think, it's really about, even in the temptation, like the sticking to your brand, even the temptation of growth and all of that, thinking that you've got to add something on in order to get to that next level, you have to stay rooted in something bigger than you, I think if you're not aligning your message, your system, and your culture and you're allowing that comparison to creep in, you're allowing those shiny objects to creep in, you're not going to be able to hold steady. You're actually going to stall out. You're not going to grow. It like does the opposite effect. And I even think like the patient experience, like when people walk through the doors and they're encountering, your CA and stuff like that, when you start to, again, dilute that message, dilute chiropractic, and take it away from just its pure principled, neurologically focused, roots and stuff, when your CA isn't able to communicate that message anymore, like, yeah, well, like, do you also want this and that? Because this and that is actually good for, yada, yada, yada. Like, again, there's just that like, okay, now I'm starting to get confused, So hold steady, keep the tone, keep your promise, keep your excellence going. Consistency creates that loyalty. It creates that trust. And so never stop that consistency. And if anything, if you're ready for growth, just double down on the output of that same message, double down, like, in the Gary Vee example, go to another channel, go bring your, domination on Instagram and bring it to YouTube if you want, that kind of a thing, like expand, the same message into other areas, right? If you feel like you need to hit that growth, next growth level, but don't expand by entering into new audiences. It's only going to create confusion.
Hey Doc, Dr. Tony here, and I want to just check in and ask you something. Do you ever feel pretty uncertain, not only when it comes to adjusting pregnant moms, infants, kids, especially maybe tough sensory cases, but do you even feel kind of lost in the dark putting together their care plan, knowing where to start, knowing what to do first, knowing what to do next? That ends now. At our Neurotonal Pediatric Certification and Adjusting Seminar, you will learn how to adjust with 100% confidence and clarity. You'll also learn how to care plan, case manage, and communicate with clarity as well. Our very unique, one-of-a-kind Pediatric Certificate of Proficiency program starts with 3 online modules that you complete first, and then you show up for 2 jam-packed days, 20 CE credits, and learn how to master neurotonal pediatric and family adjusting. And you will leave with plug-and-play adjusting protocols, care plan systems, and even communication frameworks that you can implement instantly. Over 1,000 docs have been certified over the last couple of years, and they are thriving and crushing in practice because of this program. If you want more certainty, more results, and more impact, head to the link in today's show notes and save your spot. These events sell out many months in advance, so get registered, get started with your online modules, and we'll see you at that CE Pediatric Adjusting Seminar real soon.
Yeah. Love that. Like when you confuse, you lose. And I think that this is such a silly analogy. But if you think about the girl that you follow on Instagram who had just signed up for a multi-level marketing company and she's all in, and then a month later switches to another one, and a month later switches to another one, I'm done trusting her because I'm like, oh man, I thought it was going to be so good with the first one and I was kind of getting bought in. And so your consistency matters. Like if there's a girl that I follow on Instagram, same multi-level marketing company, and sticks with it for multiple years and is doing all the things and continuing, I'm going to start to trust her. And so when we're sticking with the same message, and I know as chiropractors, sometimes we're dogs that are, looking for squirrels sometimes because we're tired or we're, think that we're saying the same thing over and over, and maybe you feel like nobody's listening, but keep saying the same thing and just double down on the same thing that you're doing. You're so right of going to different platforms and, doing more webinars, doing more workshops, getting out into, more of those community events and meeting more people is totally what you need to do. Because if you're a switcher, you're losing your trust. But if you're a sticker, we're staying with you. And so I love that message, especially for the people who are looking to grow. And so they're looking for other ways to do it. It's no, stay with neurologically focused chiropractic. It works. And whatever has been working for you, keep doing that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, 100%. And again, everybody has a nervous system. And the nervous system is the foundation of the hierarchy of healing. And so you think about any possible thing that someone could be dealing with on a health, level, a developmental level, and all of that, it all starts with the nervous system. And so really your message can expand into other, conditions and areas, in that sense. but at the nervous system. Hey, here's how the nervous system, here's how healing the nervous system and regulating the nervous system can help with X, Y, and Z. So that's how you expand that message, not, the other way around of like, hey, we're going to do nervous system. And now we're going to also start talking about, again, the car accident, spinal, type of stuff. Because then people, again, who are all bought in on the message of like the nervous system comes first, are now confused and feeling like you've kind of lost your way. So they're going to go find that person that hasn't lost their way and will continue to stay dedicated, in the nervous system.
Yes. Love that. I know. I love when one of our team members will like throw something in and they're like, hey, a doc is looking for like something on alopecia or something and they'll throw a new condition. And it's like, that's perfect. Yeah. Follow it back, track it back to the nervous system. The nervous system controls everything. And so I love how you mentioned conditions and like going after different things like that instead of completely, switching vehicles and going to the opposite is just like staying on track and finding different ways where the nervous system fits in because it does, and so that's so good. Oh, yeah. Do you have any like stories or anything of a practice or a brand that has really leveled up once their brand finally aligned with who they really were?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's like, I think, and this is because I, work at, at PX. And so I am a part of all of our webinars, all of the content that we put out and stuff. So of course I've heard this and, but like, it's still, it's the best possible example because of where he's at today, where his practice is at today, where the mission is at today. But, it's Dr. Tony and, where he started out. Like he opened believing that he had to accept everybody, the adult pain, the insurance based, and stuff like that. He thought he had to be like every other chiropractor. And again, I think I should actually take that back. I think deep down, and he's even mentioned this, like he didn't intentionally do that, but his actions and the way that his brand started to, again, at the very start, I said, branding is always happening and it's for the good or for the bad. And it's also like happening by accident or by design. I think just by accident, he had this vision for, pure chiropractic being the solution to people's, thriving and stuff and transformations. But I think ultimately, again, like his actions didn't end up building that for him. And so what he found himself in a couple years, into it was an adult pain insurance based, type of a practice. And, he was successful in that, right? He wasn't even someone that, tried that and it was unsuccessful. He was very successful in that. But it just wasn't aligned, and it wasn't fulfilling for him. So then, what happens next is what always happens when, a calling is stronger than the marketing. When he started to shift his messages and shift his literal practices, like the systems within his practice, the insurance, like deconstructing that and taking that away, and did all of these different things, pediatric families started finding their way to him, right? His passion for kids and families are so evident, right? And the energy that he has about them. His passion for the nervous system is so evident. We joke about like, you literally can't talk to him probably even at like a holiday or something without, the nervous system getting brought up. And so when he infused that into his practice and really doubled down and got laser focused on that, people started coming his way. And now, PWC is obviously completely branded for the people that it is meant to serve, and is, 10x bigger than even his original, quote unquote, successful adult pain insurance based practice was, the just like every other chiropractor practice was. Like now that he's aligned PwC, it's exploded, right? And then you obviously look at now from that, he's built, the Pediatric Experience, for chiropractors, and then he's built PX Docs, which spreads the mission of neurologically focused chiropractic to the consumer, to the parents, right? And both of those are exploding. And so again, you just see that someone who has really narrowed in on their mission, their passion, and changed every single message and component of their business down to the communications, to the systems, to the nitty gritty details. It's exploding, and it's got that pull mentality instead of push, right? He's not pushing people towards it. People are being drawn to it now because it is such a magnet, drawing people in. So again, I feel like his success story is he aligned his brand, neurologically focused, family-centered, mission-driven, and everything else just leveled up from there. And again, the right people began showing up. Now even people are showing up already believing in it because of PX and PX Docs. And so that's the power of brand alignment, right? It really just reveals the true success behind a mission and stuff. So that's the best example I can give. But for you, Allie, even you, I feel like from a startup perspective, right? So Tony's a great example of almost someone who had to rebrand, right? Find himself a few years into this and really refocus his brand. But you started out at PwC as an associate, and now you're in Colorado, right? And you're about to truly launch your practice. I know you've kind of soft launched, but you're about to launch your practice. And you've got a wait list, how did you do that? And not only that, but you have a wait list in a community that actually you just moved into, so how did you do that?
Yeah, I think for Dr. Jonah and I, it definitely started in school. And so that's where I would start to encourage the students and the new startups and things is start posting, start being who you are and who you want to be in the future. I think that we always, sometimes when people ask me about brand or social media, I'm like, to be honest, mine started in 8th grade. If we really want to go back with our generation of starting Instagram and when our parents finally allowed us to have it and to get smartphones and things, but that's the next generation coming up is you are almost born with a brand. Whether you like it or not, everyone has a brand like you've mentioned. And so whether it's going the good way or the bad way, people are always watching, whether they, have followed you since 6th grade or they just jumped in and maybe you feel like you don't have enough followers or you don't have, you're not an influencer like you said. Well, you don't have to be an influencer to have influence. And so when people are following you, they're always watching behind the curtains. And so when we started our Instagrams and then we started a little The Right Doctors Instagram in school, and that's what we turned into our office Instagram. And so I know it's not all about social media or those things, but you are a walking billboard. You are a brand. Whether you're serving at church, whether you're at the grocery store, whether you're doing any of these things. And so I think that that's what we started to think about. And I remember when we started to transition into branding for our office and not just personal brand, right? We wanted it to be not just about us, but about if we're going to bring in other doctors and things in the future, how can we have an office brand? It's not just Dr. Allie's brand or Dr. Jonah, but how can other doctors fit in? And that was really important to think about too. And I remember Dr. Rudy and Dr. Ashley Bersani, one of our biggest mentors, they just said be who you are and go out into your community. You don't have to be everything on social media either, but just go serve at church and go to the workout classes and go put your kid in this art class. And that's how you're going to meet people and they're going to start to feel your personal brand. They're going to get that gut feeling. They're going to gain that trust. Mm-hmm. Then they're probably going to look you up on social media. But sometimes we think of it as oh, they found us on social media and then they come in. But there's also the other way around of they met you, you went to get your hair done, and now you're talking about neurologically focused chiropractic care. So you are the brand too, but so is your office. And so marrying those two as well, it was so fun to like build the Pinterest board and go through the logos and go through like the brand colors and all those things. That was so fun, but it's not everything like we talked about at the beginning. And so just really remembering who you are and being a part of your brand. I'm not going to trust a doctor who's not healthy, who's not getting adjusted, who's not, doing the things that we want our patients to do. So also living out your brand, I think, was huge for us. And then moving into a community that we knew no one really. I mean, we have like a great aunt here and like some distant cousins and things, but we didn't know anyone. And so making sure that you're also like, you're diving into the PX Docs directory and you're going places and you're meeting new people. That was huge for us, but also going back to like your brand is established before you even know it. Now I have people who have followed me since 8th grade telling their friends who now live here. I always, and I believed this, but it's like everyone knows someone. And so wherever you move, there's a connection somewhere. And we've just found so many different connections that the Lord has put in our path. And so when you know that you're supposed to be somewhere, like God will provide for you. But it has been crazy to just have that wait list and things, but you're not going to have the wait list until you have the brand, right? Because they're going to research you. They're going to build that trust and that gut feeling. And so just making sure that, you are your brand, you're living out your brand, and you know that you have a brand. So you gotta be the brand, right? So that really helped us. And then just obviously like learning from Dr. Tony, learning from all of the PX docs and having really good mentors to help you continue to build your brand, not getting lazy on speaking neurologically focused chiropractic, saying the same things over and over, saying them in a different way if you need to, but continuing to stick with what you believe in. I think I just kind of summed up everything you said, but it's true. Like everything you're saying is what we need to now put into practice and live out. I think Dr. Kyle and Dr. Sam Grimes are a great example as well of someone who had like completely changed their brand. I remember at the beginning of like PX Plus and the content side of things when we had invented that 3 years ago, and watching their brand completely change, and now looking at their social media and their brand and how they speak when they adjust and all of that has just completely changed. And they were so successful in the insurance and back pain side, but you're like you said, like that conviction will take over, and who you need to be and who you need to serve will take over, and you'll be successful in that too. But like owning it. So there you go.
So good. And too, again, like I'll hit on like something super small too, but you had mentioned like social media and like even the Pinterest board of like brand and colors and all of that. Like, again, it's like you said, like it's a brand is technically, the gut feeling that someone has, but how do we influence that gut feeling? It's through social media, right? It's through the aesthetics. It's through consistency in all of those things. And again, like I just love what you said of just like, you guys had already built trust because you lived and breathed neurologically focused chiropractic since being students, and you allowed that to be something that you embodied in your day-to-day life, right? Like you talked about it on your personal social media, and you talked about it, in, your family settings and in the community settings. So like you said, when it came time to actually launch your practice brand, around that, it's like, oh yeah, like this is if I saw that, I'd be like, this is in full alignment with who Allie is, what she's all about, and I already have established trust in the fact that she knows what she's talking about from the moment she's launched this practice. So yeah, so important. Like, if you're a student or anything like that, like live that out now, like post about it now, start bringing that out into your day-to-day life, into your social media, into the community, because then, once you get to the point where you are either joining forces with another practice as an associate or starting up your own, you've already built your own, tribe around you who are like, yeah, like I believe in what this person says,
Yeah, and it just comes so much more natural and easier, and people, again, already trust you. So they're going to follow you in the little transitions that you have from student to associate to owner doc, because they're excited for your next step, but they know that you haven't changed your consistency and who you truly are at the root of your, what you truly believe in your heart. And so that's what was really cool, is like, I never felt like an outsider as an associate at PwC. So to encourage the associate docs too, like, have your own brand, but have it match, obviously, who you're working with and who you're working for in those things, because you don't have to be the owner doc to still have a brand. And that's what's really important too, because it's really cool to watch associate doctors like really own the brand as well. And same with students, like, just start it right now, because you're gonna love having that established brand. And I know it's scary sometimes to post on your own and you feel like, I need to start a new account, or I need to like do these things. I always tell them, don't, like, be who you are and just try your best to like, really, who cares what those high school, what your high school bully thinks about you now, and like what they think about you talking boldly about chiropractic and stuff. They're probably, no one will make fun of you who's like up here. And so always remember that, and just go for it and be bold and brave.
System regulation.
Yeah, and once you keep talking about it for months and years, they're going to start to believe in you, and there probably will be your patient in the future. So it's like, you just got to go for it, and don't be afraid.
So great. Yes.
Seriously. Okay, I want to get into one more question that's like pretty or a couple more, but one that's like really, that people can do now. But what's one small thing or like a brand decision that practices can make this year that actually will move the needle for them in their branding?
Yeah. First, I'd say, which I know you said one, but I've got three things that kind of come to mind.
Love it. The more the better in this point.
This is like classic me, by the way. It's like, oh, what's like one thing? I'm like, well, I have three. Like, let's just, But yeah, I think like obviously starting out with just narrowing in, like, what is that one thing you want to be known for, and remove anything else that confuses it, right? Branding is a decision support. Like, strong brands make it easier for families to say yes, right? So strong brands, again, like, it makes the decision easier. And so this idea of the one thing you want to be known for, if your practice is unclear, like I said earlier, you're like, the families hesitate. But if your practice is clear, then the belief moves faster. That belief, time to belief and time to trust gets smaller and smaller the more that you can, again, beat the same drum, be consistent in that one thing that you want to be known for. And so that's number one. Like, in terms of, for us, again, like, building a neurologically focused chiropractic, like, the real deal here, like, it means your branding, your marketing has to be unique compared to all other standard spinal focused, chiropractors in your community. No spines, no old guy bent over in pain, no mention of auto accidents or personal injury. It has to feel like it is 100% solely, 1,000%, not even 100%, 1,000% solely focused on kids, pregnant moms, and families and their nervous systems. And again, like, I can't just, breeze past the idea of the nervous system being such a differentiator in the chiropractic space. Like, this is the very best time ever, to be a neurologically focused chiropractor, because the nervous system is even trending, right? Like, people are talking, like, buying these cold plunges and infrared saunas and meditation apps and HRV trackers and, all this kind of stuff, which, great, like, love me, all of that stuff. But, it's never going to regulate the nervous system like chiropractic does, and people need to know that, right? It's not going to get to the very granular root of nervous system regulation. That subluxation, which Tony's going to be so proud for me to say subluxation in this episode. But that subluxation is still going to be there when you go into the cold plunge, right? When you go into the sauna. And so it's a temporary relief. It's a temporary Band-Aid. Chiropractic fixes the subluxation. And so again, like if you are not true to that component and you are, open to all of the different ways that chiropractic helps in these, everybody with a spine. And again, like you just dilute yourself. So truly like start out, we actually, we do this, we offer this to PX members, but like we have this branding, kit that's like, helps people get launched out as a neurologically focused family, and pediatric practice. And it has the foundational components of setting that up. So again, the one thing, choose the one thing and remove everything else that would confuse it. And be consistent in that. And I promise you, people will start to come to you,
Yes.
The other thing that I can't not mention too is like tell stories. Like the PX brand has grown and, PWC has grown because they obsessively share hope. I know PWC, like at a minimum, posts 2 stories of transformations per week. And it's all throughout every component. It's in their social media. It's in their, follow-up emails. It's in everything. They are telling people that, hey, we have helped people like your son and like your daughter or like you. And there is hope on the other side. So continue to tell stories of hope and show other people who have, share other people's journeys. And then just be consistent and relentless about it. Like, again, PWC, as an example, like their branding and marketing model is completely built upon relentless and consistent outputs on social media, being in the community, internally and externally, webinars and all of that. Like it shows up everywhere, all the way down again into the way that people are treated when they walk through the doors. And so I just think, again, like taking that one thing, telling stories about that one thing, and then being consistent and relentless in your like promotion of that one thing is what you need to focus on.
Yes. Love that. Stories, they definitely sell. They want, moms are looking for that and they're like, whoa, what if that could be my child too? And so I love that you brought that up. You couldn't not. So I love that. And that you said that. Something I love about you, Jalisa, and how you work with PX is that you are like all about protecting the brand. And I think sometimes as chiropractors, again, I already said this, but like we love new ideas and we love to add, right? We're always adding. And we've seen this in PX and on our team calls and things where someone will have a great idea. And then Jalisa has to be the one who's like, no, because we have to protect our brand. So I would almost like encourage everyone in their office to have a no girl or someone who is just fully protecting the brand of like, does this go against our brand? Does this add to our brand in a great way where it's still focused, or is it adding something that would be cool but is going to dilute our brand? And so I love that you do that, and that really opened my eyes to when you came onto the team and like we're writing emails and we're doing all these things and you're like, actually no. And we're like, whoa, that is so much cooler to see that like that protected our brand. Was it a great idea? Cool. Yes, absolutely. Could it have been awesome? Of course. But it would have diluted the brand that we have now. And so I think that, again, everyone should like add a no girl, add a brand protector to their team to where it's like you're always vetting the ideas that come in and like what your emails say and what your CAs are saying on the phone and what the doctor's trying to add because he heard about it at the seminar that he just went to or whatever it is. But I think that is so important, what you do and what we can add into our practices.
Yeah. And also like really random, like, piggyback on that. We've talked even, in an episode previously about AI and all of that. It's like also be aware of that with AI, because AI can be such a good and helpful supportive tool when it comes to creating content. But again, like it can also deviate from that like singular message that we have, and sneak in the spine and sneak in these little things here and there, because like it's taking a knowledge base, from the entire internet, and so again, like carefully go through everything and put the filter on of like, does this confuse someone? Like, would this confuse someone as to the one thing that we do, the one thing that we are focused on here, the one mission that we have? Would that confuse someone? And if the answer is yes, strike it out, Yep. If anything, like simplicity is better anyways than complexity in a lot of different ways. And so it might be better to just simplify it and stick true to the core message. So,
yeah. Love it. Okay, I have one more question for you. And that's that, like, sometimes brand seems overwhelming to chiropractors, right? It's like, what do I post? How can I design all of this? How can I, do this workshop and do this webinar? And there's just so many different aspects of marketing and branding and things. And I know that sometimes as chiropractors, we'll look at PX just for like the clinical training, the mentorship, which is all so incredibly awesome. And we've mastered that. But if we go beyond like the systems and the teams and all those different things, what is something that you can help us with, or that PX has that will help with what we discussed today?
Yeah. This is what's so fun about being a part of PX, right? It's like my job is to not only help PX docs and PX grow their influence in the chiropractic space and in, the general consumer space, but we're also building things within, the membership being offered to our members that help support the growth of their practices, right? To do this themselves. And so, you and I both have been able to be a part of this for a long time. We've been building this. And so, yeah, I feel like everything we've talked about today is exactly why we built the PX marketing engine, which is releasing soon. But I genuinely believe it is the most complete solution ever created for neurologically focused pediatric and family chiropractors who want to grow in alignment, not get involved with the chaos of things. Because again, one of the core truths that we, talked about on and on today is that, branding isn't just a quick hack. It's a intentional, authentic, consistent journey, and trust it is built over time. And branding, yes, exists to shorten that belief time, but it still requires the consistency and clarity put behind it before anything else can scale. I think of like the image of like a iceberg, where it's like the trust is what you see above the surface, but there's like 90% of the work goes into building that trust, right? Influencing that trust. And that's why we built the marketing engine. And why it's different than this random collection of, tools and automations and stuff like that. This is a staged approach, a staged engine to, building your brand, creating consistency within it, and then scaling that in order to grow and scale to 10x, growth and stuff. So, it doesn't throw what we've built here. It doesn't throw chiropractors into this full funnel CRM workflows on day one, if they haven't fully established their brand voice yet. Instead, it's designed to meet practices where they currently are and then guide them through, actual building brand building journey in the correct order. Because what good is automations if your message isn't clear? Like, it goes into a really big part of my job, like going into each one of our automations and making sure the message is clear. What good is our lead capture if families don't trust us yet? So inside, the marketing engine, we've built it out into 3 different tiers, intentionally designed for every stage that a chiropractor might be in. So the first stage is, I actually mentioned this earlier, the first 3 to 6-ish months, the focus is super simple, like build the foundation of your brand, establish authority, clarify your mission, show moms who you are, what you stand for, and why your care is different. So this is this initial kind of launch or relaunch phase for practices to become recognizable and trusted through, this bundle of content essentially that will give you these core pillars of neurologically focused chiropractic, information and stuff like that to post on a consistent basis that continues to establish that authority in your brand. Tier 2 is the content production, right? And so we scale up content production once the brand is clear into, just this output machine we give you daily social posts, we give you newsletters, workshops, campaigns, and all of that in order to build the consistency that is required in order to attract people, right? To stay in front of people's eyes. So you've built the foundation of your brand, but now you need to stay in front of them because there's so much noise out there. And so in order to create that kind of omnipresence, output is the solution. And so we give you the daily posts, the newsletters, the workshops in order to, to keep up with that output that is required to stay in front of people's eyes. And in order to build that authority in the community, instead of just a doctor who can only post, from time to time when they have time, that's obvious to people looking on. Then once we've established the brand, we've established the consistent output of content, then we go into full funnel growth. And then this is where, everything that this marketing engine, the name implies, right? We get into the tools that help you attract, nurture, convert, retain, on repeat. So this is the lead capture, the nurture sequences, the follow-up text, the conversion systems, the retention campaigns, all built into one simple, powerful platform, specifically built for neurologically focused family chiropractors, right? So again, myself, we have gone through every single piece of communication, every template that's in there to ensure that the mission and the number one thing is always the number one thing, right? And then we brought it all into one house, and so that you're not focused on all these different scattered tools and, this has to zap to that and what, that's not, you didn't go to chiropractic school to do all of this. So let us build this out for you so that you can, grow your practice and take this mission to the masses, right? To the world. And so again, this is something that's launching soon. It's not something that's, I feel like Tony says this all the time, but, you don't make money just by running ads. You make money by building trust. And I think, again, so many chiropractors get maybe sidetracked with this, okay, if I just run a bunch of voucher ads and stuff like that, that's how I get people in. No, the real impact and the real success is truly behind building trust. And that's what this marketing engine is built to do, right? It's built to build that trust first, then the content to remain in front of people's eyes, then the growth to ensure that when a lead comes in, they are nurtured and never fall through the cracks again. And so anyways, so excited about this that we will be launching soon. It is for PX members only because, again, going back to that brand protection, if this was available to just anybody, then our message is getting diluted out there. And so this is something that we are launching to PX members only. And so if you are a PX member, get excited because this incredible marketing engine, this multi-tiered approach, platform meets content, incredible machine is launching soon. And if you're not a PX member, for 1,000 reasons in addition to this one, become one. Because like you said, we're known for the clinical side of this all. We will ensure that you are clinically, prepared to be a neurologically focused pediatric, perinatal, and family chiropractor. Like, we will ensure that. We will ensure that your business systems are set up to do that as well. Mm-hmm. And we're also going to now ensure that your marketing systems are set up to do that, and grow in that. And so again, if you're not a member, man, definitely become one.
Yeah, so true. I couldn't imagine having a practice without this component. Like, if you're ready clinically, but you're not able to find the people to bring them in, what good is that? And then the opposite. So we at PX really are the whole package. And now this is really bringing everything in. So I'm so excited for this to launch. I'm excited for every doctor and every office who is really jumping and diving into this platform and this entire engine that is launching. It's going to be so incredibly amazing. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much, Jalisa. Seriously, this has been so fun. We need to do it again. I loved just hearing your input on everything with brand and marketing and all the things that these doctors truly need to start implementing and almost feel convicted by. Like, what do I need to take out? Is probably the biggest question that we learned today is like, okay, what do we need to strip away so that our brand is totally clear? How do I get my personal brand clear that matches with the office? All those things. So I loved today. Thank you so much for being on the Family Practice Podcast.
Yes, and thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Family Practice Podcast, and we will see you on the next one.
Hey, Dr. Tony here, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to the Family Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're looking for more content from us, you can absolutely subscribe to our newsletter, watch exclusive episodes on YouTube, and dive deep into the articles and blogs on our website. All of this is linked in today's show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.